So this is the other side of the cylinder head, which looks disgusting, but all this needs is a quick clean up. So I'll do that now with a bit of thinners, white spirit or oven cleaner, whatever you got, and a stiff paintbrush. Right, so let's just start taking the valves out. Just made up quick valve compressor, bit of copper tube, old thing in there, spanner and a washer. I'll demonstrate in a minute. Valves wise, you've got internal spring, external spring, your top out, and then two little collets. And so they are out of this valve, which is inlet valves. I just want to take the valves out, see what the guys are like and everything else. So I just want to pop this up, because I popped up a minute ago and it looked quite funny. So that's the valve out, and that's what's in there. So this is all crud and mess. So I just want to take the two inlet valves out, clean them up, check the seats, and then put the valves back in so I know where they are, because it's the easiest way to get these cleaned up. But yeah, it is full of grub and mess. You can probably see that. As you can see, they are not very clean. But again, it's been sat outside. It's only just mess, but nothing of it for cleaner and toothbrush won't clear up. So we started to get some more valves out, and I thought I'd leave two in here. So I've taken these out, clean these two ports up, and taken these two more valves out. I thought it was quite funny. That's all the gubbins and mess that's been sat inside there. So you definitely not get any air flowing through there. So I'll just clean this out again. And I've got a sneaking suspicion this head has been ported and polished before, because if you look in that picture there, right, this is an 027 head, and that's what that port looks like. Now my 027 head on a 1.9 engine I built did not look like that. However, it did look like that after it had been reworked by Rob Cox Engineering, so I think this has been reworked, which is helpful because it saves me getting it done, which means if it was already been ported and polished, all that we'll need doing is possibly changing the guides when I measure them. The guides are those brass bits down there, and having the valves and the guide and the seats worked with a 3-angle valve seat on them. And a 3-angle valve seat is pretty much 3 angles on that tiny corner there, which just allows the air to flow over a lot easier. So yeah, I'll take the rest out, the inlets out. Well, what I'll do is measure the guides on there. If they need replacing, I'll just note down the new place and I'll put the valves and that back in there so I know what they're doing. But all I'm doing is just cleaning it up, looking at what I need to do. No problems, no cracks. It's really nice in there. The guides haven't got that much play in them. I'll just double check what tolerances we've got to play with. But that'll be a turn up for the books if that's already been reworked, because that'll save me a fair few £100. We're just taking some more of the valves out. If you haven't got a valve compressor, I should really buy one. But bit of copper tube, always keep leftovers. Cut a gap out of it. Spanner, penny washer, and one of the nuts that goes in the cam followers. Whop that down into there. Try and get a bit of wood under the head, so when you're pushing down, something's holding the valve from underneath, or it will just slide out. Have a magnetic screwdriver and little pick to hand. And all you want to do, these need a bit more of a push because they haven't opened for a while. There you go, that one's down. Screwdriver in there. One collet. The other collet, and let it go slowly. There you go, that's the collets out. And collets, if you don't know, are when the valve goes through the springs. This little collet, tiny thing, is literally a collar. Don't drop them. So I don't know if you can see that tiny little, there's a little ridge inside there. There's two of those that sit on the valve like that. So there's two of them, they're slightly tapered. So when the valve closes and pushes up on those, the spring tension holds those on and holds all the valve in place. So again, bit of copper tube. The tools aren't expensive, the normal ones, but I haven't got one, but I should buy them really. There you go. These are double valve springs in the 16 valve heads. So you've got the top hat, main spring, inner spring, and there's another little lower hat in there at the minute, which I'll get out when I do the last valve. So I'll pull those all out and I'll show the inlet valves, inlet spaces, and something very interesting I found out with this head, which will save me a lot of money. So I'll get this last valve on, I'll show you. So that's all the valves out of this head, and after speaking to an engine builder who's been doing this for yonks, Jason Moyle at JM Racing, this head has been ported and polished. So as you can see, if that will settle down and zoom, that is not a standard VW head. It's been reworked, and the guides, as in those bits, have been bullet nosed, so they just put an edge on them. So that saved me hundreds of pounds, because the head I've had done for the 1.9, I got Rob Cox Engineering to redo it to his rally spec. That cost me the best part, 650 quid. That's replacing the guides and new seals. So this was going to get ported and polished, blah blah blah, but now I don't need to because it's already been done. So well happy with that. Just needs a clean up. So all it's going to need is get some wire wool, clean all that up beautifully. All the valves, again, if you're taking stuff out, that's where I've started. That's cylinder 1, 2, 3 and 4. They're all in the same place, all the same order, just so when they go back together they go back in. So all it's going to need is a new set of oil seals which sit on that sort of section of the valve in the engine, and then they just need lapping in. So that is a massive turn of the books for something that looked like a piece of scrap. Wasn't. Just need cleaning up, get all the leaves that were out the inlet manifold, and all the mess that was on these when I took the valves out was quite funny. Turns out to be, well, 500 quid's worth of ported and polished head, which doesn't really need any work. Camshafts, they are standard KR camshafts. The way you measure them is, right, that's the inlet cam, so that's a lobe on it. You measure the base, pretty much all of them are 38mm, and then you measure the lobe height from top to bottom, then you subtract the base from the overall lobe, and that gives you the valve lift. So these have got an exhaust lift of 10, that's 10mm and that's 9.5, but it's actually 9.6mm and 10.2mm is the exact specifications of it. So they're just standard KR cams, which are denoted by the 027 stamp on them, which marries up to those being an 027 head. So those cams won't be getting used, they'll probably be getting sold on. And I'll be getting a set of ABF cams, because the ABF cams at the Mark III 2 litre, which is what I've used in the 1.9 build, they are far superior off-the-shelf cam. It's not just the lift you want, it's sort of the duration of that valve being open that high. So that'll be the plan for the head. So at the moment I'll just carry on with the valves. I've cleaned all those up, I'm happy with those. I'll then, once I've cleaned those last 3 valves up, those will be going back in, and then I'll do the same to the exhaust side. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll clean all the oilways out, and then all that head's going to need is valve guides, valve seals, lapping the valves in, set of cams, and we're good to go. The guides themselves, before I drop the head, that's all the stuff that's come out of the head as well. It's a bit disgusting. I'm not using anything intelligent, I'm just not intelligent, expensive. Anyone can do this. It's a old toothbrush, a paintbrush. That's just some oven cleaner from Aldi. Kitchen cleaner, does a job. So what you've got, I get a valve. So the guides, these brass bits, the valve sits inside there. That should be a nice tight fit, and you don't really want, there's hardly any movement there. You don't want any movement, especially when if you try and get it near its operating area, you've got a touch next to nothing, so they won't be getting changed. If you've got a lot of movement in there, obviously that guide is the only thing that helps that valve seal. Even though the springs pull it down, that guide is what guides it down to sit nicely. So if you've got a worn guide, the valves might not be sitting properly on the seats. So if the valve's not sitting properly or lining properly, you're going to be losing pressure on one of the cylinders. So they're not expensive, they're not really awkward, but if you're going to get a machine shop to do it, they'll just whack them in anyway. So massive turn up for the books. So happy with that. So yeah, I'll just clean up these valves I've checked all the springs, there's no damage in the springs, as in cracks or anything, which you'd hardly doubt anyway. It's very good valve train on these. So I'll clean up those valves, probably get this video edited and stick it up as well. So for an Easter Sunday, that is awesome finding. Saves me a lot of money.